Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Monday. It's Monday.
It's Monday.
Yes.
Days of the week mean nothing to me anymore with a newborn.
I can imagine.
Or hours of the day or any of it.
Yeah, I mean, these curtains are closed. It could be midnight for all I know.
Definitely not, Carl. Don't worry.
No, definitely not.
Right. So I guess we should start with the code of conduct as always. So everyone, today I ask you all to be aware of others, be friendly and patient, be welcoming and respectful, be open to all questions and viewpoints, be understanding of differences, be kind and considerate to others. And with that, I guess we should kick off. So
all right.
Yeah,
so this is, I guess this is going to be a little bit of a weird thing because hopefully people are in the chat will pop in some questions as we go along, but we have some determined questions for ourselves, or that Carl will ask all of the rest of us, I guess.
That'll do. I mean, I can do that. So, I mean, have anybody read any good books recently? I know, Richard, you're involved in some book projects, so let's hear about those.
So not very cloud native-y, but data is sort of cloud native in a way, because without data you can't do anything. So I've read a data cookbook, which was really good. But I have also just finished writing the last chapter of the Up and Running with Containers on Azure book that me and Wesley, my colleague, has been working on. And Rob's reviewed a few chapters as well. So we finally finished the last chapter. It's going through all the processes. So hopefully that'll come out next year.
Awesome.
Cool.
And
do you know the release date?
We're trying to get January, but Amazon's showing it April, but I want it brought a lot forward because April's a long time away. So hopefully,
Can we get signed copies for the user group you could give out?
Yeah, I'm sure we could figure something out. I'll ask Pat.
That sounds non-committal to me.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
The book would have to be sent back and forth to Europe to get signed then. And
yeah,
but it probably, it's doable, right?
Yeah, it's doable. Yeah, I'm sure we can figure it out.
Figure out something. Yeah, I've read little to no books because I've been just busy doing stuff, which for some reason takes precedence in my brain. So I haven't been able to read anything this year. I think up until the point where I started looking through the list of stuff that I've been doing, and it's like, oh wait, I did all this. So I don't remember any books by.
I've been doing a lot of reading, but it's Microsoft Docs and Terraform Docs. I don't think that those count as books, really.
No,
I've been doing a lot of writing. I've been harnessing my inner Oren Thomas.
Oh, nice.
Well, I actually had a chat with Oren last week, and every time I talk to Oren, it's like the man works more hours in a week than we probably work in the year. I mean, he is able to crank out Learn modules for Microsoft Learn modules pretty quickly. He's got a formula. So I've been working on some Learn modules, starting some new Learn modules this month, and another Git project, actually, teaching Git to folks more in the operational space than the...
Oh, nice. Good.
As we start looking at cloud native, containers, containerization, infrastructure as code, people are like, what's this Git thing? So I'm spending a lot of time with that. And all the books I've been reading are fun books because... a lot of sci-fi. I just genuinely don't want to read work books when I'm not at work anymore. I want to, but then I read it and I fall asleep after like a page and a half. So, yeah.
I have to do audiobooks, which turns out is not that great if it's really technical.
Yes.
Because listening to someone explaining code, at 2 times speed because I need to get through it, is kind of weird. So it's usually soft skills. If there's anything.
It's interesting. Someone recently said to me, I did a video, a long format video to learn Azure DevOps. And they said, and I've had a lot of this feedback, people struggle with Microsoft Learn. They struggle with the reading aspect. So the videos are really good. And one person goes, several people say, can you turn this into a podcast? And I'm like, you want to hear about learning Azure DevOps as a podcast? Like, yeah, I just learned better that way. But yeah, that was interesting. Because I also struggle to hear like a podcast or an audiobook for something technical, especially when there's code involved.
I think it's different if you potentially like talk about learning something, but if you have a book, I'm trying to look for a book, like I have a book called Efficient DevOps. It literally has like YAML in it.
Yeah,
I think
same.
having someone explaining YAML, it's like if like a Kubernetes book is like kind, and then start talking about the API groups, and it's like,
how do they do the spacing for the YAML in the audiobook? Is the question I have.
Yeah,
it's like dash label. No, yeah.
Yeah, some books are best read than listened to. Yeah.
I've even tried. I've got a couple apps on my phone. Not only Kindle, but O'Reilly has an app, and as a Microsoft, we get access to O'Reilly books. So I have some interestingly thick books that are fantastic, and I'm like, oh, I'll take these on vacation with me. But trying to read them, even with the code on my phone, I'm just like, it's hard. It's really hard. So I actually like the physical paper book and the ability to like turn the page, go physically go back to the other page and reference the code or the code snippet. So I even struggle just even on a digital format. But I'm getting old and I like paper again for technical books. So
I just saw that Matthew Boyd asked, what are you all doing for Christmas? And are you expecting anything cool from Father Christmas? Which is one of those things now. Again, I'm becoming old. People ask me what I want for Christmas. And it's like, well, I could, if there's something I want, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
And if there's something I can't afford, which is the only reason why I wouldn't buy it, then you can't afford it. So
yeah,
I actually bought myself a big ass screen. So I'm going to.
I would ask for things, intangible things like a good night's sleep or a night minus the kids, or
Yeah.
Wishful thinking there, Carl. I think,
and it is. I mean, we've just had our 5th child, so I'm not getting sleep now for another 18 years. So the intangible things that nobody can really get me. But I mean, if Father Christmas or Santa Claus can do it, or if anybody can do it, Santa Claus can. So
if Father Christmas can come, pick up your kids, take them out for like a playland thing,
yes,
and then come back later.
That'd be
take
great.
the children for a week. Let me sleep for a week.
Couple of days. I mean, I wouldn't even ask a full week. Just 48 hours.
Nice.
What about you folks? What are you doing for Christmas?
No plans. I don't really do Christmas, so I'm I don't think I'm gonna get anything. Maybe coal. I might get some coal. Yeah, I removed the chimneys in my house, so Father Christmas won't be entering.
Yeah,
that's quite an expensive gift this year, though.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you could get us some oil or some gas, that would be.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything for Christmas. I think he's gonna skip my house. I think he's gonna bypass.
No DevOps books or Cloud Native books on your wish list or anything.
I do want a new bicycle, but you actually can't find a bicycle in this country. In this country being the UK, for those out there that are watching. There's a shortage of stuff and can't get anything. So yeah, I think I'm also gonna go for sleep, Carl.
Sleep is a good gift. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. What about you, Richard?
Yeah, I think I might go for sleep as well. But apart from that,
listen to us old timers just wishing for sleep for Christmas.
For New Year's, I'm off to Orlando, so to sleep where these days between Christmas and the 28th, if they went really quick, I'll be happy with that.
Hang on a second, aren't you just back from Orlando or California, or somewhere?
Yeah.
How many holidays do you get a year?
Not that many. I don't know, 4 or 5. This is a new year. This is a new year, though, so you know.
Carl, he doesn't have children. That's
what it is. That's what it is. We keep coming back to that. He doesn't have kids. He has cats to look after, though. So
yes.
How many cats now?
3 cats. They're around somewhere. I can see one sneaking around.
It's not exactly.
Just put a bag of food and
a litter box,
big buckets of water. It's like, here you go.
Yeah. It's just they're off to the cattery for New Year's. Should be good.
The cattery.
Yeah, it's like the kennels for dogs and that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
House of cats. Yeah. Yeah, and Europe's not getting a lot of snow right now. So I have friends that are like, "Oh, come skiing with us over Christmas." And I'm like, "There's no snow." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which I'm fine with, but that's a different story.
Yeah, but
What-
you're from
I-
Norway and from the land where the snow is all year round, right?
Yeah, almost. Where I'm from, it's literally it's better now because of global warming, which sounds really bad to say, but it used to be there's no snow outside. All right, cool. Come out the day after, going to work, and then you have to dig out the car because it's underneath snow. That happened overnight. That's
Oh,
what
wow.
it used to be, but it's not that bad now,
Mm.
which is a bad thing apparently. But
I hate to be the guy that steers us back to on topic,
Oh.
but
Yes.
right, sorry.
Flux and Argo just graduated, and Robert,
Yes.
I know GitOps is your
My
mastermind
thing.
specialist subject, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, in the CNCF, to become you get onboarded as a sandbox project, which literally means not a whole lot in terms of like requirements. Like a lot of projects can become a sandbox project, but to become but you don't get a lot of support there, right? And then they have like 3 levels. They have sandbox, they have incubated, and then they have graduated. Graduated is like the types of Kubernetes, kind of important stuff. And more projects obviously has come to a graduated state, but both Flux and Argo has been an incubated project for quite some time now, and I know it's been kind of hard for them to get through everything, as far as I can tell from like the PRs and stuff like that. But luckily, everything seems to have been working out. Also, they had some security issues and a lot of things. But I think last week, Flux officially went through and got graduated. And I know also that Argo is technically there. It just haven't been announced on the CNCF blog right now. So both of the major like GitOps products or projects are actually is now a CNCF graduate, which is really awesome.
So would you say GitOps is now something everyone should be looking at now these 2 products have graduated, or still room for other deployment methods?
So in the CNCF, they actually have like an explanation what these type of, like, if you're a sandbox project, you might look into it. If it's an incubating project, people are more like on the front of like tech adoption, might want to, actually start adopting it. While when it's graduated, it's supposed to be like, now basically everyone can onboard it, because now we've gone through all the due diligence, so to speak, and should be good to go. So if you're looking from that perspective, yes, people should really look into it. It also happens to be a really easy way to deploy stuff into Kubernetes, which is really great.
Is there so there's going to be an on-ramp with learning any new technology? If we're specifically looking at Flux and Argo, which is the less steep on-ramp?
Which is the
less steep? Which one's easier to learn?
Well, at that point, you kind of get into opinions on stuff. Both are great tools.
I'm not trying to trap you into showing your preference at all.
Well, I'm very public about my preferences, and which is Flux. And the reason why it's Flux is because the way that I see it, Flux takes just normal Kubernetes manifests. All you need to do is just point it to the right place in Git, and it will start doing stuff as if you were running kubectl, apply. Not a lot of abstractions there. Well, Argo has some abstraction, but at the same time, it's not really that bad. It doesn't take time to learn. It is not like new technology. It's just a different way of deploying stuff. But with Argo, it's built in that there's a more GUI. Like you have a portal. You can jump in through and click on stuff. So if people want to do that, that's cool as well. The way that I usually do it is I use Flux, or my teams and the products that we're doing is using Flux. If the developers are using those, platforms want to use Argo, that's perfectly fine. Like whatever makes it easy for the people who are using it.
Right. Okay. So
And I think
you're
that-
not. Go ahead, April. Sorry.
Carl. I was going to say that kind of describes everything we do. What makes it easier to? What's the learning curve like? Depending on your background. I mean, I was talking about just getting started with GitOps and infrastructure as code the other day, and people always ask about Pulumi versus Terraform and I wrote a blog about it because I get the questions all the time, and it's about the barrier to entry. And if we're going cloud native or we're learning a new thing, we need to find that thing that just lowers that barrier to entry for us, makes our lives easier. Because if it makes it harder, we're going to drop the tech, right? We're just not going to go forward with it.
And one good thing about AKS is out of the box, you've got the cluster extension for Flux. So you can actually just easily integrate that, and it's looked after by Microsoft. Whereas Argo, you need to look after that application lifecycle yourself. So
so if you are in probably most people are looking at this is if you are using AKS for your Kubernetes stuff, it's really easy. You literally just have to put in where is this stuff. Please apply it. More or less.
And if we were talking GitOps and Flux and Argo, I mean, is there a line between using Helm and Customize, or are you using both? Or
both are very much used. I have preference towards Customize if I'm going to do anything besides just plain Kubernetes manifests, because it just makes a whole lot of sense for when you need templating. While Helm is something I think a lot of people kind of started using because it became very popular, and I still see Helm as like a packet management type ordeal, where if I created something that I want people to deploy into their clusters, I want to create a Helm chart for it. But every time people are like, I have doing stuff internally, let's create Helm templates and stuff like that, it usually ends up having a lot of overhead, managing all of those types of things. So personally for me, it's either just plain manifest or customized, but Helm obviously is great in those use cases.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat. Sorry, Scott. Maths is relevant to the current topic, so I'm going to ask it first. So are Flux and Argo easy to learn without using it in production, or do you need to really get your hands dirty with it to understand them?
I think it's relatively easy if you understand Kubernetes in particular concepts. If you understand that, like the entire controller life cycle, it is really easy to use. Both Flux and Argo is really easy to deploy, and the few abstractions that they are using, it's just usually related to, where is the code located and how do we apply that. And it's not a lot of text. There's not a lot of YAML going on there. So it is really, if you have a cluster anywhere, you can get offset really quickly.
And another good thing is Argo have a free sort of online learning platform where you can get some certificates and a nice sandbox environment, so you can actually learn by doing from them directly as well, which is quite nice. So they got like a GitOps fundamentals course and then a more advanced one.
Would you say those skills are relatively transferable between the two, or once you've learned one tool, that's...
It's the same concepts, at least. Like many of you can kind of see the Argo came out of some people who were disagreeing a little bit on how Flux went. This is a long time ago. So there's a lot of similarities between the two projects when it comes to how stuff works. But that you could say that for any Kubernetes project. It's custom resource definitions and controllers that are looking at and doing stuff for you. You just need to know how the resources should be written, and it works pretty seamlessly.
Awesome. I think I'll ask Scott's question now. Sorry about the delay, Scott. So, can you advise best sources to get practical experience with YAML and ARM templates?
Who wants to go first?
I'll start because I'm the Microsoft and go, why the hell are you using ARM templates? But
Bicep, go bicep.
yeah, I would
Yep.
say, Scott, my best advice is go bicep. Like if you're still using ARM templates, don't.
Mhm.
And if you're looking to use YAML with your templates, let's just call it bicep because ARM word makes us all cringe in our sleep. And gives us nightmares. No, genuinely, if you're trying to use YAML, I would ask you how you're trying to use it. Are you trying to use pipelines? Are you trying to use it somewhere else? Go ahead and feel free to answer in the chat. Because I think it depends, right? If you're trying to do CI/CD, if you're doing CI/CD with GitHub or Azure DevOps, you can use the marketplace to hook in your add-ins and it helps you fill out your YAML. YAML is literally all about syntax formatting. There's probably some good online readings of how to, but I've just learned by doing it. And I usually 99.9% of the time I use YAML and pipelines. So if I'm using GitHub, I go into the marketplace and I copy and paste out the YAML thing, the YAML snippet. If I'm doing Azure DevOps, same. I just copy the YAML out. And I learned about YAML, and if I break something, that's how I've kind of figured out. But it's about syntax and availability of it. So you're using Terraform.
Spaces, not tabs. Yeah.
Yes.
Spaces, not tabs. When
We're
it comes
not
to
going to
YAML,
get
just
into.
remember
We're
that.
not going to get into that war.
Yeah,
So-
we're gonna start a war over here. Scott's using Terraform. Why are you using ARM templates? Why? Scott, there's also Learn modules on ARM templates, but better yet, there's Bicep Learn modules, and it's all free. You get hands-on with it. But yeah, go to Microsoft Learn, or it's
Is there
learn.microsoft.com.
Terraform Learn modules now? I feel like I've seen some.
There's
They-
some
they
Microsoft
are.
apps on Terraform
Not
stuff.
really. Yes, but not really. I'm
there's
writing
the-
some new ones.
There's the HashiCorp Learn or whatever, everyone has Learn. So HashiCorp has a lot of Terraform stuff that is kind of in the same way, and like it's guiding it, at least like giving you some sort of like guide through how to start using it.
So
But when it comes to YAML though, it's one of those things where we all kind of hate on it at some point, but that's usually because it's YAML is great if it's 5 lines, but then you have like multi-layered, like let's just say, if I show you how you define a custom resource definition in Kubernetes, you will go crazy because it goes back and forth into like all these different lines, and if you want to do something, you have no clue where you are. But YAML in itself is a relatively easy thing. As soon as you know how to do lists or arrays, it always look kind of the same way. If you want to, if you want to create an object, it always looks the same way. You just have to use it to work with it. And when it comes to ARM templates, that's not something you should do in 2022 and 2023 when that comes around.
So, just while we're talking about YAML, I've been reading a lot around Terraform and pipelines and Azure DevOps and stuff, and we'll have a debate later as to whether DevOps is cloud native and all of that. But I've been reading some best practice or proposed best practices from the community and from fast track engineers and stuff at Microsoft, and one of them said specifically about Terraform. So use Bash in your pipelines and run the actual Terraform commands as opposed to using the YAML tasks. Thoughts and opinions?
YAML or the tasks can work, but there are more times than not where I import some sort of task from somewhere to run Terraform, and then there's that tiny little of customization that I need to do to get something to work because something went wrong, and I can't access that because it's behind a task. So I personally prefer running those kind of things just as close to as what I would do on my computer as possible.
So just a Bash task or whatever it is, and then have the command. I mean, how?
Bash or PowerShell, depending.
What about error handling in that case? Is if so you're running Terraform and it's just outputting the console output and whatever. How's DevOps then handling that in terms of error handling?
Well, you can write everything into you can reuse that between even in the task and in the words just escaped me. That's the ADHD. In between jobs and stuff like that, you can export that and reuse in between. So it depends on what you mean by error handling. If you wanna have different steps that are doing different things depending on. Usually, if you run stuff in a it's just CLI and like PowerShell or Bash, if Terraform fails, it exits one.
Right.
So,
Okay. So let's talk. I'm going to keep driving that point a little bit while we're talking about it. So let's say we're using TFSec to do some code quality against our Terraform. So if you're using the TFSec task, it's going to fail a quality gate if it detects any problems. But if you're running that from the command line or from Bash, isn't that just going to give you some console output to read?
I think TFSec exits ones as well if it fails.
Yeah, I believe so. You should just need to configure your script to capture that error, and then you can get your DevOps task to fail on that, and you can even write messages and stuff like that, and maybe kick off another task. So have a task that if this fails, if this previous task fails, send an email to yourself and tell me why or something else.
It was just so I'm interested to hear April's take on this as well, but it's really it struck me as interesting when I was reading that, going, oh well, I didn't think about not using YAML tasks and just running the Bash stuff or the inline script, I suppose.
I think it depends, but if you want that output and to reference it, that's why I've done either Bash or PowerShell in the past to get that consistency. Because the other times we don't get quite the output and the detailed logs as well. And the YAML task, this is the other thing about YAML tasks, and I've been dealing a lot about security and YAML tasks, is who writes the YAML task, what's behind it, how it's signed.
Yeah.
That becomes even though your task is running, if let's say on a cloud hosted runner, it's a secure environment. If someone's writing that task and there's a vulnerability, you don't have control over that. That's the other thing. Or if your task breaks, and we've all done it. We've added a task into our pipeline in YAML, and it's caused some issues. So if you're using a pre-written YAML task, you don't always know the integrity of it. So I usually prefer to use native. Either I go PowerShell over Bash, but that's just personal preference.
I suppose that then opens up a discussion about supply chain management and stuff. If you're doing things where someone else has written it and you don't know, I mean, well publicized compromises over the last few years in the supply chain area where someone upstream compromises or nobbles something, and then all of your customers are in trouble. It's.
Yeah, I deal a lot with that when I'm talking just about CI/CD with customers and deployment methodologies, and all of a sudden it becomes a discussion around, oh, hey, what about the integrity of this task or this code snippet, where it came from, or when you're handling and logging credentials, simple stuff. And I then talk about how these tasks are verified, if they aren't. But if you need something custom, write it, in Bash, PowerShell, how you need it to run, and then you're guaranteed it's going to run against that runner in a more secure environment. But yeah, and I think it's interesting when you look at how tasks are verified or using third-party add-ins, tools, etc. Those all have vulnerabilities. So when customers are choosing it, there isn't a perfect answer. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of it just talking to customers because they're in certain industries where that credibility is crucial to them. Financial industry. For some reason, I'm in like all these financial industry customers, which have their own rules outside of the rest of the tech world. They write their own rules. It's crazy.
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say also it's really easy for you to experiment a little bit while building it if you're doing it through CLI. I find it to be quicker to get done rather than trying to find a task that kind of suits the purpose in some cases. And at some point, you've done automation in the pipeline, the same type of automation several times, and you're just going to do the same that you did before. So I don't spend a lot of times when I do stuff in pipelines because I kind of don't, because GitOps, yay. When I'm in pipelines, I usually, it's pipelines that have been created like a long time ago, like
Yeah.
or at least like I have like a starting point from something that I've done before. I just copy in and then do some small changes.
I think the gist of the article that I was reading, and I'll share it with you all after the fact, or I'll tweet it out later. But I think the gist of that particular, because there was about 5 or 6 best practices, and that was the one that just caught my eye. I think the gist was learn the technology, not the abstraction, because YAML task is an abstraction over the technology. So fair enough, really.
Mm.
So sticking with Terraform, GitOps and Terraform, Robert, comments,
Yes.
thoughts?
It's doable.
Right.
You can do it.
Anybody can do it. I mean,
anybody can do
if
it.
I'm deploying my infrastructure and I don't have any Kubernetes in it, and suddenly pipelines are bad because they're not GitOps, how am I using GitOps with Terraform if I don't have any of that?
So if you want to do actual GitOps and using Terraform, there is a controller for that, which is called a TF controller, or there's several controllers and operators for Terraform itself. But WeWorks, who created Flux, made a controller that's called TF controller. It's pretty straightforward, which is kind of like the basis of basically everything that I'm doing these days. I had a talk or a session at All Day DevOps this year about that, and I had only 30 minutes. Speaking of, is it easy to learn Flux and Argo? In those 30 minutes, I spent half the time talking about it, and 15 minutes I actually deployed Flux, deployed the TF controller, and managed to automate Terraform through a GitHub. So it is not really that difficult to do.
So do you need a Kubernetes cluster before you can use Terraform GitOps, or can the Terraform
one of
the
it's one of those great things about GitOps. Like everyone keeps like, all right, so I want to do GitOps. How do I do GitOps? I need a cluster to run GitOps. How do I deploy that cluster? So kind of like so you need to have Flux and TF controller installed to do it that way. What usually ends up happening is me using Terraform to set up the infrastructure. And preferably most of the bootstrapping of Flux in some way or fashion. And then later on, that is just like if I point that state file into a storage account, for instance, I could then take that code that I ran and put it into this GitOps pattern, which then would use that as state file anyway. So as soon as it runs, we'll just say, there's nothing new here. And then, so you kind of need to get it going first and then retrofit it, sort of.
Okay. So
that's one way of doing it.
So I guess what you could do is you could use your GitHub approach to build a new infrastructure for new customers. So if I have a new customer and they need a MySQL database, I can have the repo ready, put a Terraform file in there. 5 seconds later, that's done. Then the GitOps is installing all the apps into the cluster and everything's done. So kind of like Azure Service Operator, which is sort of similar, but using GitOps as well.
You can do that. And the reason why it kind of ends up being Terraform for me is usually the people that I work with, while they know how to know Kubernetes pretty well, they're not programmers, they're infrastructure people. Telling them like you could still do Terraform, and then we have like this approach to make it automatic, so everyone can contribute. Just like takes away all like the pressure for a lot of people of learning stuff that they probably don't want to learn. And actually, the way that you describe is literally the way that we're building services now. So we have like our we call it automation platform or deployment platform that is GitOps based, where we're building Terraform root modules to do these deployments that we can reuse. And then we are adding Terraform resources into our clusters, and that gets picked up at TF controller, and it just like magically works.
Nice.
So continuous delivery and continuous integration, that's kind of where it's always been, but we've been using continuous integration techniques for doing continuous deployments. Continuous deployment should just be, hey, I have a new version that is deployable, and then it should just exist, right? So that's kind of what GitOps solves, and does that with Terraform as well, which is kind of cool.
So the barrier to entry for using GitOps with Terraform is actually have Kubernetes in your environment, or intend to have Kubernetes in your environment?
So there's not a lot of ways of doing proper GitOps without having Kubernetes. There's like sort of things, and you're going to splitting here at some points, but there's not a lot of like solutions that will hook off all the criteria of being GitOps in a proper way.
Yeah,
So
I mean, are you going to use this GitOps or TF controller just for the sole purpose of deploying a customer's entire infrastructure, or are you going to stick with pipelines that are doing it at the minute?
it's going to be, that's the entire thing. That's going to be what's doing everything. And everything's going to be behind the APIs and self-service and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I literally submitted a talk to KubeCon next year for EU, which if that gets approved, come listen more about that.
And that's in
Amsterdam.
April next year in Amsterdam, yeah.
17th to 21st of April, if I'm not mistaken.
While we're on that topic,
I'm gonna be there anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'll have to see if I'm allowed out. So if you're watching, wifey. So while we're talking about KubeCon, Richard, you were at KubeCon North America.
Yes, it was good. It was a lot of
fun.
Yeah, so it's the first time I've ever been to a KubeCon, and I was lucky enough to go to the one in North America. Got to meet so many amazing people, like the Flux team, Argo team, Robusta, who we've had on here before. Loads of people we've spoken to I've actually got to meet in person. And then the AKS team were there. So we had quite a few of the PMs there, and Brendan Burns was there as well. So we all were having chats about what's coming up and how it's all going. I signed the ins and outs of certain things that I can't talk about, which was quite interesting. And then, yeah, they had a AKS pre-day as well, which was really good. So they did some nice presentations, which you can get online now. And then they took us out for a meal in the evening. So a really nice steak place. So that was really nice. And we just sat on a table, just chatting about AKS and Cloud Native. And yeah, it was really good. But definitely worth going for myself, just for the networking. The sessions were really good as well. Learned quite a bit. eBPF is definitely something that's going to be taken off next year. And WebAssembly, which you can now run natively in containerd shims, is going to take off probably next year, I feel, as well. So 2 technologies, definitely something to look out for.
Did you get to see much of Detroit, or was it hotel and conference?
I walked around a lot. I went on the Detroit People Mover, which is like a monorail. I went on it once.
That's just a great name. It's like, what are we going to call this service? Well, we're moving people.
Yeah.
All right.
So Disney World and Disneyland had a People Mover, and theirs is so much nicer. It's a lot cleaner as well than the Detroit one. But yeah, and it's more open air. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I didn't even realize Canada was so close.
It is.
So I was taking pictures of this nice scene, and then someone, I think it was you, Carl, said, "Is that Canada?" Or "That is Canada." So yeah,
you can throw a stone over the border.
I'm probably really wrong, but I think Detroit's one of the only places where you can drive south and cross the border into Canada from the US. I may be really wrong about that. I have to go and Google it. But before I make a fool of myself anymore.
Montana?
No,
that's fine.
Maybe.
Let's carry on this.
I should know my American geography.
We're going to bring a map of Detroit up here, and we'll see. Where's it? Right. Anyway, here's a question from Matt. Apart from KubeCon, are there any other good conferences?
Are there any other good conferences? I mean,
not Microsoft Ignite.
Oh, I wasn't even going to say Ignite. I wasn't even going to start that dumpster fire.
Hand back your
Microsoft
MVP now, Richard.
AWS reInvent was really good. That was a good conference. I see bits of it online. Even though I'm an Azure guy, it was good to see what they're doing with Kubernetes and that.
Yeah, looks like a good one. There's well, it depends on what you want. That's kind of the main issue. Someone's having fun downstairs.
Yeah.
The main issue here is that there's so many conferences now, and everything's starting. Or I keep on saying it, but I've been saying it for a year. But like things are opening up, so there are more physical stuff going on, which is so much better than virtual stuff. There's going to be PSConf EU next year in Prague, which
Prague.
this year,
I'm going to that.
yeah, both me and April were this year. Got to meet up in real life. And I know that April exists. I've seen her. so
I'm
so
not
you know,
just an avatar.
yeah, you're
Yeah, I
not.
think it's
She's not
what you
computer
really want.
generated.
I think no, not this week. PSConf EU is great. PS Summit, PowerShell Summit in the US was great, but they are both 4-day events, so they're smaller
Yes.
events. They're not as big. I mean, I'm not a big VMware person, but VMware's big conference just took place in Barcelona, and that's fantastic. Again, depends what products you want. There are tons of NDC conferences going on. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. GitHub Universe just took place.
Yep.
I was supposed to go to HashiConf Global in October, and I didn't get to go because we're not allowed to travel.
There's also depending on where you're at, there's also stuff like HashiConf Global is one thing, but there's also HashiConf in every single part of the world, more or less. So
yeah,
if you're interested in stuff like that, there's always that. But then you have things like DevOps Days that are happening in cities everywhere, which is a cool event format. So if there's one close to you, go to that. You will enjoy it.
Kubernetes Community Days as well, which
yes.
I've seen a lot of going on. So there's one in London. I think they got one in LA coming up soon as well. So they're global. And then, yeah, as April said, Microsoft Build is probably Microsoft's best conference to go to at the moment.
And if we're talking Kubernetes, there was a new Scottish conference this year, Kubernetes based, right?
Oh,
yes. What call it? Kube Huddle, was it?
Kube Huddle, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody check that out? Or
I was away in California at the time, so I couldn't go, but I would have gone otherwise. It looked really cool. Yeah, like a pre-KubeCon conference.
Yeah. As far as I can tell, for something like I haven't been, but according to literally everyone that's been to KubeCon is a little bit of it's an outlier. It's not the same as all the other conferences, and there's a lot of networking. You meet so many people, and I feel that's kind of like what everyone's saying. Like you go to one KubeCon, and you want to go back all the time. For me, PSConf was actually very much like that. It's a really nice, like the people who are at PSConf EU. Extremely nice, and like the social aspects of it is more than worth it, and you'll meet a lot of cool people.
And they put a lot of thought into it in terms of that.
Yes.
Actually, the Netherlands, I'm going to go ahead and promote some of the events in the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a lot of events that are smaller, but let's say smaller, a few hundred people. Azure Lowlands I went to this summer was awesome. It was in a warehouse. It was kind of like a mini rave all day. There were 4 bands. The content was fantastic. The only downside to the event this year was the venue. Just the setup of it wasn't conducive to having everyone in the keynote at once. But the event was phenomenally ran. The food was great. The people were great. Great atmosphere. Lots to learn in different tracks. So it catered to lots of different Azure stuff. Yeah, I think it just depends what you want to learn, what you want to look at. But yeah, I want to go to KubeCon. We'll see. We'll see about next year.
Fingers crossed.
I want to travel again.
Yes.
For KubeCon EU, I will be there. Hopefully, I will speak there. But obviously, as well on KubeCon, there's GitOps Con, which is a 0-day event hosted by me and other people in the Open GitOps project. So if you are at KubeCon, I will be there. I swear, like I will swim across.
You heard it here
from
first.
Oslo
one way or the
Amsterdam if I have to.
Nice.
I mean,
yeah, talk about the pre-days. KubeCon has so many pre-days. You just can't join them all, unfortunately, which is a bit of a bad thing about it. But They had Dapper Day, the AKS Day. They have AWS days, GitOps days, Prometheus days, Grafana days. So many pre-days, and you just want to join all, and you can't. But most of it is recorded, which is the beauty of it as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you go to the CNCF YouTube channel and start looking at they have playlists for all these as well. When you start looking into it, like every single one of those playlists is like filled to the brim with content, and this is basically just one day of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah,
awesome. So we're coming up on 45 minutes, and I want to get 10 minutes to talk about what Azure Cloud Native are up to next year. But let's talk ACR Teleport or AKS Teleport or whatever it's called. Whatever happened to it?
So it nearly came out, but then I think there's some issues with it, so it got pulled at the last minute, and they're redoing it and making it better. And hopefully, one point soon, it will come out, because I definitely need it for quite a few customers. But yeah. It just means you can have your container images pulled super quick, near enough instantly onto your worker node. So if you've got a massive machine learning image of like 9+ gigs, you don't have to wait 6 minutes or whatever it is to pull the image down. It's going to be pretty much there. But what I do in the meantime is just create some daemon set that runs on the nodes. And then in AKS, we set the scale down mode to deallocate, so the nodes are there. You have to just pay for the storage in that case, but then when they come back up, it's pretty much the nodes are already with the images pre-pulled. You can get this daemon set to have a cron job, so it pulls the images like every day, every 15 minutes, whatever time you want. And it's my workaround for it currently, but I really, really want Teleport. So if any of the PMs are listening, please fix it.
Teleport, please. So the name of the game there is keep your image management under control. Keep your images small and don't use hundreds of them, right?
Yeah, basically. But sometimes you can't, like Windows images are massive, so that's a pain. Machine learning images are massive, so that's where this tool will definitely come in. It sounds like Rob's had first-hand experience with massive machine learning images.
I've seen them, and then I ran, and then I ran away.
Best idea.
Oh, you're doing this. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
So what other tech, AKS, Kubernetes, and Cloud Native related are we looking forward to in, well, I assume with 3 weeks of the year left, we're not getting any this year. So what are you looking forward to in 2023?
So hopefully, for me, workload identity will either go GA at the end of the year or just in the first couple of weeks of January, unless anything major is found in the public preview. So I'm really excited for that, because that's getting rid of pod identity, which had all the rubbish bits running on it and everything. So it's so much easier to set up as well, a lot easier. I'm super excited for that.
That would be great to get just into GA, so we could just like leave pod identity, in the dust and move on. But some customers don't want to do stuff that's not GA.
No.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you're implementing on behalf of a customer and it breaks.
Yes.
Carl, is that one of yours screaming?
Yep. They have
surprise.
They had surprise. They haven't come in yet. So if anybody's watching this before the 21st, I think my Grinch session with Christina Devochko was out, but my 4-year-old runs in the middle of it. So you can see me trying to keep it. We're 3/4 of the way through. I'm looking straight at camera, trying to keep a straight face and keep talking while she's running mental in the background. So
amazing.
That's awesome.
It's all good.
That's work from home.
Yeah, that's the way work from home is. Yeah. So we've 10 minutes left just before we hit the hour. Let's talk about what. So if you don't already know, we're the organizational team for Azure Cloud Native user group. We've had a great year. We started off with Brendan Burns. We've had some awesome sessions throughout the year. We've had some great spotlight sessions. And if you don't know already, a spotlight session for Azure Cloud Native is where we get a project or a vendor that's doing awesome things on Azure for Cloud Native, and we bring them on mid-month to have a chat about what they're doing and how they're contributing to that Cloud Native and Azure space. But I want to talk a bit about what Azure Cloud Native are doing in 2023. Anybody want to talk about that?
Do we even know?
Well, I'm going to open up the call for speakers in the next couple of weeks. So
I just had a
hopefully-
dog that was kicking me in the back, which was kind of confusing.
Oh, bless.
Zelda will be continuing into 2023 with Azure Cloud Native. Hello, Zelda.
Yes, she will. She will take the reins and control it. No,
Yeah.
there's the podcast, the ever will be turning up. Podcast.
The one we've been
Yeah.
talking about for 6 months, right?
Yes, or
Yeah.
more. That will happen. It just happens so that time is stupid, and we don't control time yet.
Yet.
So that is a 2023 project, I think.
Yeah, I think
especially
so.
since I have 10 days left of this year, and then I'm off. So
Nice.
So lots more spotlight sessions, hopefully in 2023. Let's talk hybrid events. Are we going to see a hybrid event for Azure Cloud Native in 2023? London, Edinburgh, Dublin, because I could get the train and have a pint. Or Norway, Oslo. Where are we going to in 2023?
I mean, I want to go to Norway, but alcohol's expensive there. So
everything's expensive here.
I know. And I only want to go in summer.
Yeah.
Well, if it was in Norway, we could have gone to where I'm now from. Yeah, Daddy. Not in Oslo, where I live, the capital, but we could have gone to where I'm from in Tromsø, which is far up in the north above the Arctic Circle, and then we could get on the boat, and then we could go to Svalbard, which is and have like a real Arctic experience.
Oh, well.
That might
cool.
limit our numbers, but I mean, I'm all for it.
I mean, it might just be the four of us. Is that like land of eternal darkness?
We could just
eternal
live
light,
stream that, and there you go. That's the event. A couple of days of us on a boat in the Arctic, fighting polar bears.
I need to put this up from Bjorn Eric. Anybody taking this?
There's only a random one, and yeah, there's some. I think there's actually one called Time, but it doesn't control time.
It's no space time wizardry. No.
Now that's a Doctor Who thing.
Maybe we'll take a
Time
Cloud
Lords.
Native user group vote. Maybe we'll choose Dublin, Edinburgh, or London for people.
Yeah.
And take a vote, get people to commit to it, because if we book the space, we're gonna need to be there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm down for Dublin. I vote for Dublin. Edinburgh is also good, but Dublin.
Yeah.
I think Carl, you're probably the person that has the least amount of ability to travel far.
Yeah, well, Dublin's easy because I'll get the train down or I'll drive down.
Can we buy you
anything
a
else
hotel
involves
for
a
2
flight.
nights so you can sleep?
Here, two nights before, 2 nights after. We'll go for that.
Yeah, and you can just sleep the rest of the time when you're not doing the user group. Okay?
Yeah, works
We
for me.
can buy you sleep.
Yep. Who knew?
Nice.
But yeah, I think whatever's easiest for Carl, because he is the one with the most.
Yeah.
Almost said baggage. That sounds weird. No, I mean, it's
Children
the one.
baggage.
I love that. Carl and his baggage.
I hope my wife isn't watching this.
Carl's gonna get shot tonight, stabbed in his sleep with a plastic bag over his face. You can't call children baggage.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, moving on.
You also can't call them its or thems.
Unless they choose to.
Yes.
Yeah, unless they choose to, correct.
Yep.
True.
Okay, quick, move on. Okay.
Dublin it is. So yes,
Yeah.
hybrid event in 2023.
Yeah, whether it's
Dublin.
London, Edinburgh, or Dublin, but probably
I think
Dublin
Dublin.
if we can swing
Just
it.
go Dublin.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be there.
Awesome. Works for me.
And Robert's never been. So
Yes. Or yeah.
could
never
we,
been.
Well, hold on. Could we do like a user group brewery tour?
I'm
That
sure
would be fun.
we could swing it.
I'm just
Could we
gonna-
host the user group in the brewery?
We could.
Absolutely. Better than
We
a
can-
data center.
Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
a lot of things.
All we need is some portable camera equipment and some recording stuff. Hey,
Done.
we could do it.
Done.
Yeah.
Just
Done.
point a laptop at the person speaking. that'll be
Yeah,
fine.
we'll just carry the laptop around when we're walking
Yeah,
around.
it'd be fine.
There's so
Okay,
many people
so-
running around on Twitch filming themselves doing stupid stuff. I think we could manage.
We could
this.
probably do it.
We can do
All we
it.
need is some iPhones on those selfie stick jobs.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we need. Show
And
me
you get
yours.
one of the fancy selfie sticks that like turns towards the voice and like does the twisty fancy stuff.
Do they exist?
Yes.
Oh my
Apparently.
gosh, yeah! Like you can control it with a button and hold it out. So I don't think I have a video or photo of it, but for Microsoft Build this year, Chris Reddington was using a special selfie stick with a control. He spent like 70 quid on it, but it like can follow the things, and does all sorts of fancy stuff.
What I want is one of these selfie sticks that floats along behind me like a drone, just follows me around. Selfie stick. Okay, we're getting a bit silly at almost the hour, so I think we'll probably wrap it there. Anyone want to wrap us up?
Robert.
What I want to rap?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No. Oh, it's been a good year so far, and obviously this is the first year that this user group has existed, and we managed to do a lot of things in a relatively short period of time, and I find it fascinating as everyone of us is really really busy. That we actually managed to do this, and I want to especially thank Carl, because Carl has kind of been doing a lot of the administrative things in this group, and without Carl, this group wouldn't be working.
Definitely agree with that.
As you can tell by the podcast, which I kind of took responsibility for, which hasn't happened yet. So yes.
Well, thank you. You've embarrassed me now.
Good.
But
Just take a compliment.
Thank you. So I'm looking forward to 2023 as well. We've had a great first year, as Robert said. Maybe we'll get someone can tweet or email Brendan, and we'll see if we'll get him on for the first session of next year as well.
Yeah.
There's your job for tonight, Richard.
Cool. I'll see what I can do.
Just call him. You have his cell phone number, right?
Yeah. What's that?
Well,
no, I'm sure we can do something like that.
Yeah, it'd be good to get some of the product team and that on for next year as well. But
yeah, especially now the AKS office hours seems to have been dead in the water. So let's try and maybe do an unofficial one every now and again as well. Get the product team on, telling us, going through the roadmap and everything.
I mean, we have those spotlight sessions that we can hold every month outside of the regular user group stuff. So that's the perfect spot for it. But that being said, we'll not plan next year live for you all to hear. But be sure to look out for the call for speakers. Be sure to look out for Azure Cloud Native, the podcast, when it finally shows its face in the new year. And look out for details on that hybrid event in Dublin and apparently in the Guinness Brewery. However, we're going to make that happen. So let's see what happens in 2023. But for this year, for 2022, thank you very much for joining us in all of our user group sessions and spotlight sessions. Thank you for joining us live today. Have a great festive period, and remember to take care and relax. Chill out. Get some sleep. I won't be.
Wise words.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.